Hey friends, welcome back to the Gentle and Lowly Co podcast. I'm Addie, your host, and today we're going to be talking about the idea of learning to rest instead of quitting, or when sometimes we need to lay something down. And you might have noticed this episode has come at a much later time. We've taken a couple months off, and this thought, really, I've just been talking and processing this with God. And so that's kind of the reason for this episode, which is the whole point of the podcast, where we're learning to carry the gentle love of Jesus wherever we go. I got my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything important. And first, we're just going to get into it, and then we'll get into our topic a little bit later. So first things first, music of the week. It's not really music of the week since we've been had a couple months. However, there have been a few songs I've had just on repeat that have really encouraged me during this time, and we're going to talk about them. So Take Your Time by Joseph O'Brien. It's just this really good reminder of trusting God with the time in our lives. And sometimes when we're praying for things, if we wish it would happen faster, we have to be patient, or truly and honestly relying on God and His timing. And His timing is perfect. We know that to be true, but sometimes it's another thing just to practice and to walk in that. And so that's kind of been like an anthem and a prayer for me personally, just this past couple of months. And just a really good reminder of it's all in God's timing, whatever we're hoping and whatever we're praying for. So highly recommend checking that one out and all of Joseph O'Brien's songs. They're really, really good. But that's one that's been really standing out to me. And another one is by Benjamin William Hastings. It's called Not Even Once, and it's the acoustic version. I think there's probably another version, but the acoustic is like a really slowed down version of it. And it's kind of more thinking about God's faithfulness in your life and really reflecting upon that. And really remembering, my prayer is remembering your own testimony if you're here, if you know Jesus, and if you don't, you're welcome here as well. And really just looking back on your life and seeing God's hand upon your life and His faithfulness, and where not even once did He leave you or forsake you. And it's just another anthem that's kind of been really, really healing to my heart to look at all the different seasons and to process those with the Lord. And just, we've talked about on the podcast how praise changes things, and it absolutely does. So such a good artist as well. And I got to see Benjamin William Hastings' first ever solo live tour, his one show in Nashville. And oh my gosh, it was so good. And got to see some friends there. Hadn't connected with them in a long time. And my mom and I went. It was so much fun. But that's one of the things that I've gotten to do during this kind of rest during this season. And it was so much fun. So a lot of concerts. I mean, go to concerts. They're fun. Support the artists, right? Okay, so we're going to shift into the theme of the week, and more along the lines, it's probably the theme of the past few months. And that's where this idea of this episode, comes from: learning to rest and not to quit, or not choosing to quit. We've talked about this idea of, wanting to do a lot of things on the podcast, or having different passions and dreams, and sometimes even feeling that, this is something I think I'm supposed to do for the Lord and for His glory. But it can also be hard to wrestle with those things of, am I supposed to start this now, or do I wait? Or am I supposed to continue this thing, or do I pause, or do I stop? And this comes from really one of my favorite planners and really great resource for leadership materials and just really encouragement. And it's, Full Focus Co. They have their planner and the Focus on This podcast. Shameless plug for them. Definitely one of my favorite podcasts as well. If you just like planning and, scheduling things, but also just to have people to process those things of, really kind of talking about this double win lifestyle and this balance where we can win at work and succeed at life. And so it's like, what does that look like to do both, and also to live a life as a disciple of Jesus and to practice Sabbath and rest and those things. They don't talk about all of those things, but I kind of apply the resting part into my own personal rhythms of, Sabbath and resting and all that stuff. Anyways, such a good podcast. And on their Instagram, this post kind of came across my feed, and I like all their stuff a ton, but it says, if you get tired, learn to rest. not to quit. And I think this was in the caption, feeling worn out, remember it's okay to take a break, recharge, refocus, and come back stronger. Now, that's such a simple, post to just like and to keep scrolling on our phones, which we've talked about that and how hard it is, just to kind of take a break even from our phones and just to really be present. And I think that was something that the Lord has been challenging me to be present for people in the current season that I'm in. And I have this huge amount of flexibility with my job right now where I can work from anywhere, which is a huge blessing. And this is something I still do on the side. And I'm so thankful I get to do this. It's a huge privilege. And the one thing though is that I did go back to being full-time, started a new position with my work, and that was a huge answer to prayer. But that was back in the end of August. And so kind of going in, into the fall, out of the summer. And I really felt like the Lord was like, Addie, you really need to shift your focus here and to be present here where I've called you for at least this season, and to really figure out what's working, what can I do better, and how can I use this podcast? I love these conversations we get to have here. How can I use it for more of Him and to serve you guys better and to show up consistently? And so I just felt like, you know what? It's okay. The podcast, it's not going to totally go away, but it's okay to have that kind of break. And I briefly mentioned the sanctified summer a little bit in that episode. But honestly, I didn't think we would take that much of a break. And so kind of internally, like restructuring things for 2025 of like, okay, we're going to have this whole month off so I can even be, present with my family. And I pray that for you as well. And just some ways where we can serve the people right around us, right? It's a, huge blessing to be able to connect, with so many friends wherever we go. But what are we doing today? Where can God use you today, right where you're at, So this whole idea, we can feel this way, if we have those kind of big dreams I was talking about, especially if we're, exploring more early on in our schooling or career path or internships or work, and you're just getting started. You can feel like there's so many opportunities, there are endless opportunities, and today we can start anything. Like, feels like anything is possible. Especially when we feel God behind something, we can be ushered into something, beyond our wildest dreams. And what a blessing that is to steward from the Lord. But sometimes, it's hard to discern what we're supposed to do. And also around the holidays, I love John Mark Comer and his resources, and just recently coming across how to unhurry for the holidays. And so that's kind of also something that's been in my heart, where if you're hosting family like me, or if you're going to family, traveling to family, and you're the one, bringing things, or you just feel that schedule, you have to be everywhere all at once, or it feels like that, how can we pause again to be present with the people that God has placed us? And I think as believers and as disciples who are trying to love Jesus and to love others really well, our schedules, I think we all don't want to miss opportunities to love people well. And so that's kind of even where we're coming from also. And so, we're trying to, think about, okay, do we need to just shift and just to process and reflect, before we go into a new year, into 2025, which I pray that you do. That's what I'm going to be doing. I already have started that process a little bit, but just to have those questions and to really wrestle with God, like, it's okay to ask the question you're scared of it. It's daunting, but asking, do I need to lay this down? Is this something I need to lay down for a season, or just to take away and just wait on the Lord, or to be okay with not continuing it? Now, don't worry. I've wrestled with that question with Gentle and Lowly Co. and with the podcast and those things, because I want to steward it well. And that's where the heart posture is coming from. But I want to continue bringing the gospel, And so I just want to look at more ways to find healthier and better rhythms to do that well as a solo entrepreneur, if you will. So that may be a season that you're in. And I would encourage you to wrestle with those questions and ask God, do I need to lay this down for a season? Or is it a couple weeks? Do I just need some time off? Which sometimes we're scared to take that time off, but I think we can do it. We can do it, and it's there for a reason, and we can be present with the most important people around us, and it will be okay. So then really our next kind of question, taking that season of rest. This was a good analogy I like to think about almost every winter, because living in the country, you very much, have seasons that are directly in front of you when the farmers plant the corn and the soybeans and the fields, start to sprout and to grow, and it's all beautiful, and the flowers come up and wildflowers, and then the fall happens and it's just a array, of colors, and it's gorgeous. And then the winter happens, and like the fall harvest, and the cornfields are bare and the deer start coming out, and then it snows and everything's frozen, you're freezing, and you might just feel the urge to hunker down and to watch some movies and, have some hot cocoa. And what a great, blessing it is to be able to do that. And it's a season that helps us maybe like physically slow down. But the one thing I love after the Christmas season and we really enter into the new year, there is just this quietness of the season and like of the fields, and just you can almost hear everything with the snow. If you don't live where there's snow, you might just be able to kind of feel that like anticipation, or like that has kind of dissipated, and there's just this breath of like fresh air a little bit. And so I love thinking about this, where it may appear like nothing's happening under the surface in those fields, or just, the things around us where we're just going and coming from. But really, there are seeds being planted underneath the surface that God is working on, and He's going to bring to harvest in the springtime. And so come springtime, I know for sure there are always tulips out in my front yard that pop up, and they're beautiful, and they surprise me every year. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, where did those come from? Oh yeah, they were growing, they were being nurtured, they were being planted. And so really, if I can leave you with any kind of final thoughts as we enter into this new year, and I'm so expectant for what God wants to do, I'm so excited, but really consider the question, where are you supposed to be planted? Where are you supposed to say yes and let your yes be your yes? And where are you supposed to say no? And it's okay to say no, It's okay to stay home on a Friday night and watch some of those holiday movies, if you will, or just a fun movie, or to hang out with your pets, or your family, or throw a game night, or just read. It doesn't have to be flashy. And so thinking about that of, living a quiet life, a faithful life for the Lord, I want to encourage you to do that. And if that means you got to take some time off for the next, 2 weeks and to really be present and spend time with family during Christmas or the holidays, it's okay. Like, I don't know if you need to have permission to do that, but you can do that. Sometimes I feel like I can't do that. I've felt that in previous seasons, and we can just get caught up of we have to do everything all at once. And the spoiler alert, we're human and we can't do everything all at once, and we need to rest. And God designed it that way for us and for our own benefit. So I pray that you'll think about those things and process that with the Lord. Grab the journal. I hope you have a journal by now. We've talked about that so much, or even your notes app on your phone. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Even sitting with God over your morning coffee or tea, your morning beverage, whatever that may be. Just take some time to ask God as we enter the final stretch of 2024. Just think about what worked, what didn't, and what dreams, do you have for this upcoming season that you need to give to the Lord and bring to Him and say, is this for right now? Or do I need just to pause and to be, planted here and to stay here and to grow with you? And we can look to Scripture and, see His word, see His truth, but just trust that He's speaking to you when you ask Him those questions. Because if we ask Him, He'll let us in. He wants to have that conversation with us, friends. Pray that this will encourage you as we enter into the new year expectantly. I'm going to be taking some time off as well, and we'll have new episodes consistently in the new year, starting every Monday. And so I'm really excited to just have some new rhythms, to have more conversations about the ways we're carrying the gentle love of Jesus wherever we go. And so I'm so thankful for you, friends. Thank you for listening. I'm praying you have a wonderful week, friends. Take some time to rest, celebrate with family, and continue to carry the gentle love of Jesus wherever you go. Here's to 2025, and Merry Christmas, guys.